my life in you. Love released, my heart with deepest joy abounds. Our voices ring with heaven's sound. Christ in me, hope of glory. Christ in me, redemption story. Christ in me, the royal line. Christ in me, indescribably divine. My heart knows the Fatherhood of God. I love you forever, Lord of Lords. Christ in me, the hope of glory. Christ in me, redemption story. Christ in me, the royal line. Christ in me, indescribably divine. My heart content, my soul at peace, my life in you. Love released, my heart with deepest joy abounds. Our voices ring with heaven's sound. Christ in me, the hope of glory. Christ in me, redemption story. Christ in me, the royal line. Christ in me, indescribably divine.
Good day and welcome to the Service with a Difference. It is the 27th of March 2024. It is Wednesday of Holy Week, and we have been looking at this Holy Week and how our hearts convict us of the fact that Jesus is the one we need. If we're going to let go of everything that is not God and embrace everything that is God, Jesus is the one we need. We need to do that. Our spirits tell us that this is the one we have always needed. This is the one that we love. Because this is the one who has always, since the creation of time, been the one who will redeem us, being the one who is going to save us, being the only one who can save us from ourselves, save us from sin, save us from death, save us from everything that is not of God, and help us on to everything that is of God. And today we look at how it's not just us that Christ comes to save. He comes to save everybody. And we look that Jesus invites us to his table. And tonight we are reading from John 13, verse 21 to verse 32. It is the story of Jesus having the Last Supper with the disciples, including Judas, even though he knows what Judas is about to go and do. And then the story ends with Judas leaving to go and do what he needs to do, Jesus saying, and now I am glorified, because now nothing can stop this process that has been put into place. And so salvation is already worked, if you like. It is still going to take place, but nothing is going to stop everything that is about to happen. The wheels are in motion. And that's John 13. We're reading from 21 to 32. And so we see that when Jesus invites us to his table, he invites everybody to his table. Everybody sits at the table of the one who invites them to the table. We're also going to be reading today from Psalm 70, where the psalmist, it's a psalm of desperation. It's a prayer of desperation. Lord God, please hurry up and come and save me, because I can't anymore. And then Hebrews chapter 12, we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 3. The writer of Hebrews is saying, just given them a whole long list of people who have been faithful to God and be considered as faithful by God, not because they kept the law, but just because they were in love with God. And he says, so we have this testimony of all those who have gone before us, and so we are free to throw off the sin that so easily binds us and fix our eyes on Jesus, who is the author and the perfecter of our faith. And so keep looking at him, because that is how we then go on the journey of holiness. He has done everything to break down all the barriers between us and God. And so just keep your eyes fixed on him. And that's how we go on to holiness. That's how we embrace all that God created us to be. And then we're going to be reading from Isaiah chapter 50, from verse 4 to verse 9. The reading that we read from Isaiah on Sunday, Isaiah speaks of the servant of the Lord and how the servant of the Lord is obedient to God. And because he's obedient to God, he is persecuted for his righteousness. And I'm going to ask you to put this on pause as you first read through those readings. And as we read through them, we give God thanks for them, and we pray that he bless them to us as we reflect on them in this moment. As I said a little bit earlier, we have been looking this week at how we see in Jesus our only redemption. He is the only one who can free us from the things that have control over us. But obviously, we said that in order to embrace that freedom, we need to accept that we are safe. We are safe with Christ. We can trust him to bring the healing that we need. We need to trust that he can bring the healing and the wholeness that we need. We need to trust that he will bring the healing and the wholeness because of who he is. That's who he is. That's what he does what he does because that's who he is. And so when we open our hands and when we open our hearts and when we open our minds to Jesus, we see in him the one we have always loved. On Monday, the one we have always needed. We spoke about that yesterday, and now we are saying we see in him the one who welcomes us to his table, into his presence. And then when we look around us, we see that there are all kinds of people going through all kinds of things, experiencing all kinds of emotions, all at the same table as us. And part of the process of rehabilitation for us, part of the process of letting go of sin, letting go of everything that is not God and embracing everything that is God, part of the process of going on the journey of healing involves us sitting at this table, because this table is home. It's where we belong, and it is where we will be perfected in love. And so we sit at the table, and we read in Hebrews, the writer is encouraging them and said, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. Don't become weary. Don't lose heart. And so as we sit at the table, we know that we are sitting at the table with everybody. We are sitting at the table with those who are connected to God. We're sitting at the table with those who are in love with God and in love with others. We sit at the table with those who are easy to love. But we also sit at the table with those who have become weary. And we sit at the table with those who have lost heart. So we sit at the table with Judas, and we sit at the table with Peter, because this is like the experience of both of them. And so we sit at the table with those who have grown weary, and we see in this Judas. Judas has grown weary, and I'm sure that Judas did believe that Jesus was the Messiah. In fact, he did believe that Jesus was the Messiah. And I expect that he had grown a little bit weary of waiting for Jesus to take over the nation from the Romans, and to do everything that all of the zealous Jews were hoping Jesus would come and do. But Jesus comes on Palm Sunday. He comes riding into Jerusalem on a colt. He should have been riding it on a horse. And so Judas is trying to put the pieces of this puzzle together, and he just can't make sense of why Jesus is not entering into Jerusalem on a horse, because he's meant to be coming in war. And so Judas thinks, well, maybe Jesus is not going to do what I need him to do, and so I'm going to have to force Jesus's hand. And he is tired. He is tired of waiting for God to work, because sometimes it just, it seems to all of us, I'm sure, that God is taking too long to work. And like most of us at times, he probably thought that maybe he needed to help God do what he thought God needed to be doing. And I think we all get to that place, even though we know full well that God's way has never been our own way. We chase after things that are not ready. We chase after things that we are not ready for. We chase after things we don't fully understand. And it's in these moments that you and I and Judas even we get in the way of the work that God is doing, even though God can redeem our mistakes and our errors and our getting in the way. But we know then it just takes a whole lot longer for that to happen. And and when we ask God, when we know that God is coming to save us, when we need God to intervene in a situation or to help us with something, um, God answers the same answers we answer. The answer is yes, the answer is no. The answer is yes, but not yet, because you're not ready to receive what it is I have to give you. You're not going to know what to do with what I give you, and so it's going to become more of a burden than a blessing. And so just wait until it is ready, or just wait until you are ready. So just give it time, and that's what we struggle with, because we don't like that time, and that's where we grow weary, because we have set God's revelation, we have set his redemption, we have set his salvation, we have set perfection on our own timeline, and we get impatient when God is not working at the same speed that we are working at. And that's what makes us weary. Judas just wanted the kingdom of Israel to be restored, and God's answer to him, and God's answer to all of the disciples, was Jesus. His answer was, I am coming to save you, but I'm coming to save you from more than these invaders, because before them was another kingdom. After them is going to be another kingdom. Again, we said that on Sunday. God's answer to them was, I'm coming to save you from yourself. I'm coming to save you from sin. I'm coming to save you from death. And if you're obedient to me and to my timeline and to what I am doing and to what I've called you to do, there will come a time in which the world will know my glory. And there is going to be no person who will want to lord it over any other person, because all people will know that they are equal and that I am God. I am the master. I'm the Lord. I'm the king. And when I am king, there is going to be peace. When everybody recognizes that I am love and love rules, there will be peace. And so when we submit to God, when we find our strength in God, when we remain connected to the God of life, then we cannot grow weary, and we will give others strength to continue in their own journey of living into the fullness of God's healing love. Judas grew weary because he was doing his own thing. Judas wasn't connected to Jesus. He wasn't connected to the rest of the disciples. He had his own motives, and he had no one that he could test his motives with. He had no one that he could bounce his motives off of. And so Judas had become alone. He had separated himself from the rest of the disciples, and he allowed no one to help him discern what was going on within his heart and within his mind. And so he became weary, because he was carrying this whole burden on himself, and nobody seemed to be going where he was going. Nobody seemed to be going where he believed they needed to be going. And so Judas became weary, and he tried to force Jesus' hand. And that was what the betrayal of Jesus was all about. And then as we read from today's reading in John's Gospel, John 13, Jesus and the Last Supper, there are three big voices at the table. Obviously, it's Jesus who is doing all the talking, Judas who's doing and about to go do the betraying, and Peter. Peter is the one who is passionate about serving Jesus, passionate about being a part of whatever Jesus is doing, passionate about protecting Jesus. And so you'll know a little bit later in the evening, after the betrayal, after the arrest, Peter has followed from far, and he's in the courtyard, and people are asking him, aren't you one of his disciples? He denies Jesus. So this one who so passionately serves Jesus and wants to be a part of what Jesus is doing, and just loves Jesus, feels really terrible about himself. He doesn't like who he is, because he has denied Christ. He has lost heart. He wanted to defend Jesus. He wanted to stand up for Christ. He wanted to give his life for the one that he had pledged allegiance to, but he obviously didn't think that he was going to need to do it this very night, where he is saying, we will never let that happen to you. And his immediate response when they ask him, "Aren't you one of this fellow's disciples?" He says his immediate response is one of survival. His immediate response is one of fear. It's one of saving his skin, and it's obviously one that he regretted immediately, but was still too afraid to change his response, and he made that same response the next two times he was asked that question. And so Peter might not have been afraid of death, but with Jesus being arrested and with everything unfolding as it was unfolding, Peter was having this surreal moment, and he loses courage. And I believe he lost courage because he was alone, along with the others. He had deserted Jesus. And so he was faced now, when they were asking him the question, "Aren't you one of those fellow's disciples?" He was faced with the possibility of being arrested. He was faced with the possibility of dying with Jesus. And he has no one to encourage him. He has no one to strengthen him. And in this moment, he chooses to deny Jesus 3 times. He chooses to deny Jesus 3 times. And for me, I want to stand up for Christ. I want to speak about Jesus. I want to testify about what he has done in my life and what he is doing in my life, because it is a journey of salvation. It is a journey of going on to wholeness. And as I want to speak about that, as I want to stand up against injustice, as I want to stand up against those who need to have mercy shown to them, when the opportunity arises, but the opportunity comes at a cost, how often have my knees buckled? How often has my mouth shut? And I wonder if in those moments would it not have worked out differently if somebody else was there just to give me a nudge in the right direction, just somebody else there to say, "I think we need to do something." And so Peter loses heart because Peter is alone. Judas grows weary because Judas is alone. And the weariness and the loss of heart both happen when we're alone, when it feels like there is no one with us on our journey of faith, when it feels like there is no one else with us in our journey of life. And it's not because there isn't, it's just because in that moment we are feeling alone. And there are often times in which we grow weary of the rhythm of the place where we worship, and sometimes we even lose heart with a place where we worship, but we are reminded through the invitation that there is space at his table for everyone. We're a part of the table, and only together, when we're at that table, can we stand true to our faith and to who we are in Christ. We can change places of worship, but that's not going to change our weariness. That's not going to change our loss of heart, because after the excitement of the new place of worship and a new community of worshipers dies down, what is left behind is ourselves. We still feel alone because we haven't allowed anybody to come into our space. Unless we commit to a community of faith, we're going to struggle in growing how to love God. We're going to struggle in learning how to love others, because as soon as we come across difficult personalities, we leave. And so belonging to a community of faith is about doing the hard work of being family. It's about doing the hard work of learning how to love those who are not easy to love. And I have no doubt that Peter was very difficult to love. I have no doubt that Judas was very, very difficult to love. I have no doubt that any of the disciples, all of the disciples, being very, very strong personalities, were all pretty difficult to love. And so belonging to a community of faith that is real, and when I say real, I mean imperfect, belonging to a community of faith that is imperfect means that we belong to a community that is filled with the healing love of God, and it is that community that will strengthen us. It is that community that will give us courage in those times where we grow weary and in those times where we lose heart. I want to invite you again today to go on a journey of a prayer of imagination, a picture prayer. First, ask God, again, always first ask God to help you to become silent, to become aware of his presence. And then I want you to paint a scene in your mind. And this scene is a specific scene. It's a scene of a table that is similar to the table that Jesus invited his disciples to. It's a table that is full of the people that you care about, the people who affect you emotionally. It's a table that is full of those who bring you joy, those who make you tired, those who bring you sorrow, those who give you life. It's a table filled with those who are innocent and those who are not so innocent, even those who have died, those who your heart breaks for. You also obviously are seated at this table, and it might look like your family table, or it might look nothing like your family table, um, and and I know that many of us will want to serve rather than being served, but at this table you are seated. At this table you are being served. At this table, everybody is talking, and everybody is connecting with each other. There is laughter, there is chatter, there is eating, there is the passing of food backwards and forwards, and it is good. And and I want you to look around this table. Spend time looking at each person at this table. Look at them. And as you look at them, remember that Jesus loves them, and Jesus wants to bring healing to them. Look at every face, and as you look at every face, give Jesus thanks that person belongs to him. Give Jesus thanks that he is at work in them, and that his love will do immeasurably more in them than we can ever imagine. In the presence of Jesus, you might want to say something to them, at the table, and you might want to listen to the response. If you're going to say something to them, listen to the response, and I want you to go around the whole table, committing each person there in, into the healing love of God, and we do that because God is intentional about bringing healing, and when you are ready, after you've had a conversation with God about every person around that table, when you are ready, and you are ready to end the prayer, when you are ready to return into the present world again, just please remember to be gentle with yourself. Don't rush back into the noise of the moment. Just be silent first, and let the noise of the world like filter in slowly, as you just continue to reflect on your experience in this moment. And so let that be your prayer for today as you sit around the table with Jesus and everybody else that Jesus has invited to this table. Amen.